Hey, Slingers, welcome back to another week of the Wordslinger podcast. I'm so glad you could drop by. Now, today, I'm chatting with Heather Hildenbrand, and she's a best-selling paranormal romance author. You're gonna get a lot out of this interview. You're gonna really dig Heather. I know I do. Now, after the interview, stick around. We got some industry news. I got some really special industry news you're gonna want to check out. That's just all there is to it. So make sure you stick around. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you after this interview.
It's the Wordslinger podcast, where story matters. Build your brand, write your book, redefine who you are. It's all about the story here. What's yours? Now, here's the guy who invented pants optional, Kevin Tomlinson, the Wordslinger.
Wordslinger.
Everybody, thanks for tuning in and for sticking through the intro. I'm sure that was informative. I'm talking with someone I really appreciated meeting at one of the conferences you heard me go on and on about. I'm talking to Heather Hildenbrand. She's a best-selling paranormal romance author, and she's got one of those quirky, fun personalities. She'll put you on the spot if you let her. She manhandled Dan Wood. From what I understand. So welcome to the show, Heather. I'm glad to have you on.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. Apparently all the rumors your listeners have heard about me are true, I guess.
Yes, we're here to confirm.
Yeah.
To finally confirm all the rumors you heard about Heather are absolutely true.
Right.
So you and I had a chance to we didn't get to hang out much. We didn't get to talk much at Indie Book Fest in Orlando. That was Orlando, right?
That was Orlando. I know it's probably a blur for you, but it was Orlando. Yeah.
Yeah. It's all meshing together. It's all kind of lumping into one big conference for me now. So
yeah, I think the only people that travel to more author conferences than authors are like you guys. It's insane.
And specifically us, not like industry
specifically people. You guys. I know, it's crazy.
Yeah, because you were at 20 Books with, and I didn't get to go to 20 Books because I decided to stay married instead.
But that's probably a good choice. Yeah.
Yeah, depending on who you ask. You ask the right people.
Right.
So, but you were there with, you got to hang out with Dan while you were there.
We got to hang out with Dan some more, and I got him into, there's a conference I'm attending next year that a friend of mine runs, PennCon in St. Louis, that I've heard really good things about, and Dan and I were talking about that, so I got him into that, I think, for next year too. So that's cool. So
very good.
I'll be hanging out with you guys throughout the year. It's cool.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
We could not ask for a better scenario, honestly.
Yeah.
So now you're okay. You write in a genre that I hear about all the time. It's a popular genre, the paranormal romance genre. So what got you started in paranormal romance?
Well, it's probably the same thing that got, the other 1.5 million paranormal romance authors started. And
they read Twilight and thought I could do better.
It was Twilight. Personally, it was Twilight, but mostly just from like an industry outlook on that. It got everybody. It got the world reading again, really, or like people my age reading again, and that really weren't. So it really flooded a market of readers, which I think ended up just sort of being a supply and demand thing, which was cool.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And obviously you're doing well with it, right?
Yeah. I got lucky when I started. I started at a really good time to be publishing paranormal romance, and when Twilight was still just huge, and so people were hungry for that, and I was able to develop a really solid readership from just starting out with that. And so they've followed me, even though paranormal romance is kind of dead. If you ask traditional publishing, they won't touch it, but I've got like a core group, I think, from that time, and so it's really cool. I can still write
everything is dead according to
I know. Well, they don't know the trends until it hits them in the head with them, so
right. Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know, there is a tendency. I think there has been some moving on, I think, in a sense, but there's still that large audience out there who I would go sort of ignored, I think, if not for the indies, right?
Well, exactly. And that's kind of the cool thing about being an indie is, right, there still is a big enough audience for us that we can still make a living at it. Maybe it's not quite as much as what the traditional guys want to look at, but it's plenty for us. So it's great for me that I can just choose that and write it anyway. So
yeah.
yeah.
But you enjoy it, right? I mean, this is,
I love
is
it.
this a genre you read prior to Twilight?
No, actually, prior to Twilight, and that's why I said I think that changed it for me too. It changed it for a lot of readers, because prior to Twilight, well, I had kids, so when I had kids, I stopped reading. But before that, when I had time and a life, I read a ton of like Nora Roberts, Danielle Steele, so like contemporary romance. I went through like a psychological thriller phase. I read a ton of stuff, but they were a lot more like adult books. They weren't so heavy on the paranormal side, and they were a lot of murder mystery, like just all kinds of stuff. I would get into a certain author, and I would just want to read everything they had. And then Twilight, that was like one of the only genres I hadn't read, and so it kind of opened it up. And then I read Cassandra Clare, and now she has her Mortal Instruments, the Shadowhunters TV show. So all the stuff that's now like huge in pop culture, I read all that stuff like when it first came out before anybody knew about it. So
yeah,
that helped, because now I kind of I was that audience. I am my audience. It's perfect.
Right. Yeah. That's good. I mean, I did the genre I write in now. I read frequently. I can't say that it was like my biggest. That wasn't the biggest draw for me. I was always sci-fi and that sort of thing, but now I can't get enough of them. So I think having the personal connection to it, cements it, makes you want to get in there and read everybody.
Yeah,
Is that what you're finding?
For all of us, I think there's going to be a genre that inspires us more than other genres, because there's books I can pick up on my shelf and read one page of it, and it makes me want to write. I just want to go write. I'm inspired. Some of them I just read and it's reading, it's entertainment, but some of them it does that for me. It inspires me to write a story. So that's kind of where I think we have to go with.
Now, do you write anything outside of paranormal romance?
Oh yeah, which is probably indicative of the kind of reader I just told you I am.
Yeah.
Because I like a little bit of everything. So all of my stuff has an element of romance in it, because I just love that. I love the love story. But most of them also, I did some romantic, shifter suspense, adult shifter romance, and it was had a bad guy or a murder element to it or something. They're on the run from somebody. So I've done that. And then I have a traditional series published with a publisher. And that one is, it's got a suspense element to it. It's about clones. So it's got a little bit of sci-fi to it.
All right.
So yeah, I like writing all kinds of different, and actually for next year, I'm starting to kind of define what new projects I want to work on, and they're probably not going to be paranormal. I think I'm going to do another maybe a dystopian kind of thing that I'll submit to publishers, and then some other stuff that I'm thinking about. So I'm excited to try other stuff.
Yeah. So okay, on the traditional side, you have an agent, I assume?
I do, yeah. When I got my traditional deal, so the publisher came to me. They found my book after I self-published it, and they came to me and wanted to buy it. And so I did that deal, and then I got an agent.
No.
So I did it totally backwards.
You're mistaken, Heather. I've been told that's impossible. I've been
Isn't
told
it
by
though?
people.
And that's why it's such a beautiful story. Oh. Don't ask me how I did it. I didn't. I have no idea.
That makes you one of those infuriating authors who succeed and have no way to tell anybody.
I know. Oh, I know. It pisses me off when I'm like, what did you do that was so successful? And an author's like, I don't know. It just accidentally happened. And I'm like, I hate you.
I wrote a good book.
Yeah. Oh God.
You have found the fastest way to get me to punch you in the face. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, what was that process like? I mean, you're indie published, you're handling everything yourself, and that's scheduling and everything. What was it like to shift gears and get that traditional contract?
So if I tell you the story, you're just gonna hate me more.
You're not gonna make me punch you in the face.
You're gonna want to, actually. Because I had the best, because I've heard enough other authors talk about having any kind of experience similar to mine, and it, maybe wasn't good for them, but everything about my experience has been amazing. So it's sort of a hybrid kind of deal. So my publisher is Alloy Publishing, which is Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers basically is my publisher. My book was the first one they acquired in this. It's called Powered by Amazon, is like the label. And they have a partnership with Amazon. So Alloy and Amazon have a contract together saying, Amazon says, like, we want these things. It needs to be Amazon only. It needs to be digital first and maybe only. And we control the price and we control the promotions kind of thing, I think. I mean, this is what I've gathered since going down the rabbit hole.
Right.
And then Alloy is like, okay, and we'll find these awesome books and like produce them. And then you guys just like do that, the rest of that. It's kind of how it works. And so my contract though is just with Alloy. So that's who I dealt with. Which was really cool because that's my audience. They own the CW. Like my editor was the same editor who worked on Pretty Little Liars, which was exactly my audience. So it was cool to kind of fit that exactly. So they came across my book. It was self-published. It was doing pretty well at the time. And they, I guess one of the editors read it and loved it. And they approached me and they were like, we want to talk to you about buying the rights for this. So we did all that. We went through talks, and basically their whole idea behind it, because they've done it for a bunch of people now, and their whole idea behind this label is they'll do this so that the ebook does really well because Amazon, basically like under Amazon's kind of wing, and so they're great and it sells. But Alloy really wanted it because they really want to develop these projects for media, for like film or TV. So that was their whole, like, that's what they're looking for, are books that already translate well into, can we sell a script, which was, again, super cool. See, this whole story is just fun, right?
That's okay.
And I didn't do anything.
Click your ruby slippers together and take us on home.
Seriously. So they did that. And so within like the first year of book one coming out, it was optioned for television. NBC optioned it for a year, and then they didn't do anything with it, and the option expired. So we are reshopping it right now. It's with Alloy. It's like in their production place. I don't really know how all that works. It sounds like very mysterious and exciting. You know what I mean? They don't really tell me a whole lot.
That's intentional.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of magic. So they're writing a script and they're like shopping it, and I don't really know anything until something else happens. But so because it's with Amazon, it's not in like major bookstores because Amazon doesn't like to share. So like they won't put paperbacks in Barnes and Noble and stuff like that. So it's been kind of cool and just kind of a weird, different sort of traditional thing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it's interesting because a lot of authors, I think this is kind of the direction of the industry really, is a sort of hybrid model where, people go out and they sort of prove themselves. The indie publishing world becomes the proving ground, and they go out and they build a career and they build a platform, and they learn how to market their work, and then someone comes along and reaps all those benefits. But at the same time, they're offering you something in return, right? I mean, they're taking care of the parts that you don't understand or don't know about the film.
Or that I don't have access to, like they can't market like Amazon, clearly, and so that's awesome. So that's been great. And, but it was happening in a time, I will say, in my defense, I'm not the only one that I know that happened to. There was a time, for a very short period of time, that I had a lot of friends who got kind of scooped up that way from publishers.
Right.
And sort of discovered, and like the Amazon Top 100 was the slush pile, kind of.
Yeah, exactly.
So it does happen. Okay.
Look, it's not, you don't have to defend yourself. There's nothing wrong with it.
To all the haters that are going to listen and be like,
no, look, haters, back off, because what you did was you built a career you wanted. I remember when Amanda Hawking got her like $2 million in book sales on Amazon and then went traditional. And the very first thing you heard from everybody was so predictable. It was all, she's sold out. She's sold out on what got her here.
I know.
She didn't sell out. She always wanted to be traditionally published. So why wouldn't you do
and being traditional isn't the enemy. And, I hated on her haters for her.
Exactly.
That made me mad. I think that the best business model for authors is to be hybrid, is to be both. So.
I agree. Yeah. If honestly, that's what, and me, I'm the voice of indie publishing, and I still am out, trying to scare up a traditional contract. But the great thing is that I'll be able to ask for my own terms. I'll be able to control that.
Right.
So
yeah, and that's the best thing, actually.
Yeah.
You're so right about that, because when I was doing my contract, by then I had been in this long enough to know what to ask for. So they had first right of refusal on my other books in that series, but there was no clause that said that I could, like a lot of my friends who did contracts during that time who got discovered or whatever, they would have clauses in their contracts that they couldn't self-publish anything in that same genre for a certain period of time or at all for a certain period of time. It was crazy, the stuff that was in there. And so I knew to say, okay, we're not doing this, we're not doing it. And I mean, they were great. They were like, sure, no problem. And they worked with all of it. So.
All that stuff is a hard no. I mean, I had a traditional contract when I first started, and it was a horrible contract. I never repeat that experience, but I agree with you. I really do think that this hybrid model is the way to go. So it's good that you're kind of a model. You're a role model, Heather, for that whole thing.
I would love that. I would love to be paving the way, because I think more people should get deals like this. I think more opportunities should be
Except you don't know how you got it.
Yeah. And it should be this easy for everyone.
It really should. I think, let's talk a little, because I know how you got it, and you know how you got it, honestly, is you went out and you built a platform. You actually built up your audience and you marketed your work. So we can talk about that. Like, what did you do to market this work? Especially since there are so many paranormal romance authors out there. So what did you do to differentiate yourself and market yourself?
Yeah, well, and the thing is, like, when I started, it was 2011, 2012, and the self-publishing, the indie world worked a lot differently then. It was easier to get noticed. There just weren't as many books published yet. So part of it is that. And I hear a lot of authors saying, like, oh, it was so much easier then. But the core of it is still the same. The core of it is really like the community, the networking off of each other, the cross-promoting, getting other authors in my genre to share for me, and vice versa. That was really one of the biggest things. I mean, we did everything to help each other back then. We were, and I knew everybody in my little self-published community that published paranormal romance because it was just smaller. So that part was easier. And so you got to go looking more these days because there's just more of us. But developing those relationships and getting them to share, especially when I started, because I didn't have any advertising money. I didn't have a marketing budget. So it was definitely like, I think in this business you're either going to spend time or you're going to spend money. The more money you spend, the more time you save, and vice versa. So I didn't have money, so I just had to invest a lot of time. And I was online all the time, meeting other authors in my genre, commenting on blog posts, getting other people to see my name, commenting on reader posts on Facebook so they would see me. And so it was a lot of organic growth like that, which kind of is a long build. But then once it builds momentum, I always say it's like a snowball, and then it moves on its own. And that's really all I did. And like you said, the thing that everybody hates for me to say, write a great story, have a great cover. But that's because when I first started, my first covers were awful, like so bad, just the worst. And I learned very quickly. My business model, what I always would say to myself in the beginning, when I didn't know very much about what I was doing, but I knew when I put my book next to a traditionally published book, I don't want the reader to be able to tell the difference. Right. And if I did that, I did a good job.
And I have talked to literally thousands of authors, and I think the successful ones always have that in mind. Like the idea is to make your book indistinguishable from a traditionally published book. I think that's smart. And there is a component of you do have to write a good book. I mean, as much as we may hate that as an answer, there's truth to it. we want to make sure that when we put that book out there, and someone does happen to pick it up, that they'll rave about it, right?
Right, exactly. Word of mouth, absolutely. That's the best sales tool. And you think that's not going to be effective because if one person only tells one other person, but it is the most effective way, really, truly, because you're not having to spend money to do it. You're not having to even spend time. You're getting other people to do your work for you. That should be the goal.
That's right. Yeah. That's the part. That's the second half of your formula there. Because, I tell people this too, that it's going to take money or it's going to take time. Time and money are almost interchangeable. It's kind of an uneven exchange, but if you've got the time, you don't have to have much of a budget. But ultimately, eventually, the idea is you've built this system so that you don't have to put as much time in to get a bigger result. So do you feel like you're kind of at that point?
Yeah, I mean, that's really been the biggest change with nowadays. I do like a lot more paid advertising. I do Facebook ads and stuff. And the trade-off is that means that I'm not having to spend, 5 hours a day online, like interacting with people. And so I get my time back. The more money I spend, the more time I get back. So, but I still love interacting with readers, but now it's like, it's on my terms. I can answer the emails when I can get to them, and it's not like sucking time away from my writing or something. So that's really cool.
So what's your whole writing regimen look like? What do you do? You're taking a little break right now, but
I'm taking a break. I have no schedule right now. But I feel like I kind of earned it because I did a book a month for most of the year.
Yeah.
So that was, I didn't burn out, and that's important to know because sounds like a hefty schedule. But as I upped my advertising dollars, like I said, I can spend less time doing like the organic time suck stuff. So my marketing went down to like 1 or 2 hours a day. When I was in writing mode, it would be like 1 hour a day. It would be like check my ads, tweak my ads, check my email, put out fires there, and that's it. And then I just write 1 chapter a day. I don't have a word count. I work better in complete scenes. And once I figured that out, my writing became a lot easier. And so I just write a chapter a day. And once that chapter is done, if I need to keep going to meet a deadline or something like that, it's cool. I can keep going. I can do 2. And that doesn't feel difficult either. It's not really pushing too hard. And that's it. And it's easy as it sounds. It feels like an easy schedule. And I write full time. So yeah. I say easy schedule, but like if you have a day job, it might not be, but you can still do 1 chapter a day. I think most people can do that. So
I agree with that.
That works.
But even if you're not able to do 1 chapter a day, you put in some minimum word count every single day and you do make progress. So you may not churn out a book a month, but you could at least get a book, every 3 months out of there.
Exactly, because 1 chapter a day was a book a month. So even if you're doing a half a chapter a day, that's still a really brisk schedule. It's totally doable. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So what do you do you write in Scrivener or something like that, or how do you?
Oh my God, no! I am so I get lost when it gets too fancy, which is so funny because I'm in this generation where we're like, I don't know. I keep hearing people say I'm like an age where I'm like on the border of like. I act like a grandparent, a grandma or something about technology, or I'd be really tech savvy. Yeah. I am a grandma about technology. Well, actually, I know grandma's better than me. It has to be really simple. So I do everything in Word. If it gets too complicated, I get lost and I get overwhelmed and I just won't use it. So I've tried using all that stuff and I just don't get into it at all. I don't know. It's got to be simple for me.
No, I hear you. No, I wrote in Word. My first 3 books were written in Word, so I get it. And
I used to just format straight from Word even, but that just turns out so wonky so much of the time. Yeah. So I recently, like probably about a year ago, I got Judo and I learned how to do that, and it's super easy, super simple. If I can learn it, it's simple, and so now I can format in like 10 minutes.
Look, I just upload to Draft to Digital and let it happen automatically.
I know. Well, I'm talking about Amazon. Actually, for you guys, I do still upload a Word file. Yes, and it's beautiful. But
Amazon?
Always. And now you're on Amazon. I know.
Well, no, I mean, I'm saying we always supported Amazon as far as the Mobi files. We always did that.
You guys always spit out Mobi files?
Always, from day one.
Always forget that.
We actually... That's the format we started in. Whatever. That's okay.
And I call myself a Draft to Digital super fan.
You are. Yeah, nobody knows anyway. That means I'm doing a terrible job as a marketer. That's all that means. So now, okay, so I know of at least 3 conferences now that you have attended in our presence. So you are clearly active. You're clearly going to a lot of these conferences. What's your strategy there?
Oh, I don't have a strategy. I just like to hang out with my friends.
I hear you. That's us too. That's us too. We'll just
Because
show
I
up.
mean, you're never gonna make your money at these conferences. It's not about like, I don't know. It's not about a strategy. I feel like it's really about the networking. My only strategy this last year was I tried to go to all the ones that are like, we've lived in Florida for a year and a half temporarily, and we're moving back to Virginia next month. So while we've been in Florida, I'm like, okay, what can we do that's right here? So I've gone to all the Florida conferences, or just like anything that's close by. That's kind of what I've done.
Yeah.
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 And
So
then I
no
don't have to
agenda.
fly because I hate flying with my books. It's a pain.
No, trust me, I know. That's why I never have books. I never have any of my books at these conferences, which is kind of stupid. But really, what's the point of me bringing my books to an author conference? What's the point? Honestly,
Yeah, I mean, it does depend on what kind of conference. I mean, if you're
that's
just
true.
if there's mostly just authors, that's different. If there's
Well, when I come back to Indie Book Fest, I'll bring books because I honestly had no idea what to expect with that conference. That was my first time going to that one, and there's a whole like author room where they bring the readers in. So that's probably not a bad one to attend.
yeah, you should do that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm very lazy about that. I don't know why.
Well, you represent Draft to Digital excellently, though. So
Thank you. Thank you.
yeah.
Now, everyone within the sound of my voice, take that sound bite and go play it to Draft to Digital so they're aware.
And they'll know who it was because apparently they all know my name over there. So.
Oh yeah. You are a legend now in the
God.
annals of Draft to Digital. We use Slack. We use Slack to communicate, which is I don't know if you're familiar
I
with
use
it.
Slack. Yeah, it's awesome.
Okay, so there's a constant conversation going on. Your name comes up frequently, once a week. Yeah.
That's so weird. Okay, when you said that to me, because that makes it sound like I'm like emailing you guys a lot, or on like the author end of things. Okay,
Are you
for the
trying to say you
record,
don't?
for those of you at home listening to this right now, I do not bug them. I'm not high maintenance. And I walked away from you saying that to me at Indie Book Fest, and I was like, damn, I sound like I'm like really high maintenance right now. I swear I'm not. But then I thought about it, and I was like, okay, I don't know if you've seen this meme, but it's like my favorite author reader meme on Facebook. It's like Jack Sparrow, pirate, all dressed up. He's like drunk, wobbly looking, and the guy, the soldier guy, is like, he's like, you sir are the worst author I've ever heard of. And then Jack Sparrow is like replying, and he's like, so you're saying you've heard of me?
Yes.
And that's how I felt about you guys. I'm like, so they all know my name.
Well, you made an impression.
That's right. And I've decided to accept that because I don't know if I told you, but my one thing that I do end up doing at like every conference I ever go to, it's like a curse. Inevitably, I always have an awkward moment, foot and mouth moment, something with one person every single conference I go to. And it's usually the person that I want to meet the most. So I think I must like hype myself.
Well, you didn't have any awkward moments with me, so I'll try not to take that personally.
See, there it is. There it is right there. I just did it. See? Oh, I'm so good at it. So that's if you want to call it a strategy for conferences.
There you go. Go and be as awkward and as you can possibly be.
It's my trademark.
It is your trademark. I'm sorry I didn't get to sit in on you had like a little final thing at Indie Book Fest. And I got to meet your husband.
We just drank by the pool.
Is that all that was? Yeah, mimosas by the pool?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I was actually on my way to Nink the day you guys did that.
Oh, yeah, because that was like right after.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You guys, I can't do that many conferences. That's crazy.
Well, it comes in seasons, I mean, and it's all right. Dan goes to probably more than I do, actually, so it all works out. But they're a lot of fun, and it's very good to meet all the authors and connect. And I come at it from a slightly different angle than anyone else because I'm an author as well. So I get to, I connect in a different way. So it's all been good.
That's cool.
So what do you got going on right now? You're taking a little break right now, but you're gonna jump back in and you got 50 books you're gonna write in the next month or something, right?
Oh my God, it feels like it, right? I feel like I did that this year. No, I don't know. So I did know that next year I want to work on some different stuff. I want to try new genres and all of that. So I've got some ideas, and basically, for the rest of the year, I just kind of decided I'm gonna read, because writing a book a month, one thing that I couldn't do was read, and I need to read what's selling again. I need to find out, what's popular, and kind of do some research that way. So I'm reading. Reading's my homework right now, which is great. It's the best job ever. So I'm reading a lot, and I'm finishing up a novella that I'm doing for, it's a shared world multi-author project, and it's super cool. It's called Havenwood Falls, and sort of like Gilmore Girls-esque town.
Okay.
Filled with supernatural creatures, though. So
All right.
every author is going to write a different story, like different standalone story in this world, and then readers can just read through, but there's no particular reading order, and there's going to be overlap with different characters, and it's just really cool. And so I get a lot of my friends are doing it. I get to do it with my friends. It's
can
fun.
I contribute a friends like coffee shops, the supernatural coffee shop story to your
Yeah.
All right. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I mean, they're still taking submissions for all kinds of stories. You could write a story in there. So yeah,
Oh,
it's, a friend of mine, Christy. She lives in Orlando. She was not at Indie Book Fest, I don't think. But anyway, she owns a small press, and this is like her baby, her idea. And so she contacted me a few months back and asked me to write in this world. And so that's coming out in February. So I'm working on that right now.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, and then we will see. Who knows?
Okay. All right. Well, good. It's good to have at least some small plan or something.
Yeah, that's all I have is a very small plan. Well, this past year, it was like every month I had a release, and I had it like, and I had my plan from the beginning of the year. This is what I was doing and everything. And,
I think every author does that at least once. Every author says, this year I'm going to write a book a month, and then they do that, and then they decide that was fun, and that's over, and I'm not doing that again because that was
yeah.
that was
Well,
a year of
I found my sweet spot of how I can work well to do that. So I might do that again if I get writing a series and fans want the next book really fast. I could do it again, but I want to figure out. I want to like play around and pick a new like subgenre, and so that it feels new to me. So I wrapped that series up, so now I feel like my plate is clear. I can explore like some of these new ideas that I have. So I haven't mapped out that schedule for next year. Doesn't mean it won't happen, but I don't know yet. So we'll see. Yeah.
Wow, that's cool. All right. So you just sit down, and this is, instead of a New Year's resolution, you map out 12 books for the year and decide.
Pretty much, yeah.
Are you a plotter? You're a plotter.
I am now. With the traditional series that I had, working with those editors was amazing, and just I learned so much. And one of the things I learned was to plot, and to plot well in terms of that's how I can write a book a month. If I didn't plot, there's no way I could do that.
Wow.
So I mean, there's all these arguments about plotter and pantser, and everybody wants to be creative and all that stuff, and I'm like, well, I want to be creative too. I leave myself plenty of creative room to make certain things up as I go, but the bottom line is like, this is my job. So I also need to be professional, and I need to produce. And so that's the best way to do it.
That's interesting. All right. Okay. I accept your terms. I am a diehard and lifelong pantser. I don't know if I would be, I did a whole thing where I was pitching a book idea to James Patterson, and I had to outline it, plot it, and everything, and it just killed me, and then it didn't get picked. So I still have that one sitting around. Maybe I'll write that book. But so far, it's actually proven to be more difficult for me to write that book, and it's fully plotted out.
Because you're trying to stick exactly to your outline. Is that why? Is that what's happening?
Maybe that's it.
it. So when I say I plot, like if the story goes sideways, then I just replot. I just adjust my plot. All I mean by plotting is like, by the time I sit down to write that chapter, I know what needs to happen. So, and I've learned my system. I learned the way my brain works. Every book, I learned something else. So like I won't put exactly the whole scene structure. I'll just put, okay, in this scene, she needs to find out that so-and-so was really her mother, not this other lady or whatever.
Yeah.
Any way I want, when I sit down that day to write that scene, I can have that scene happen. It can be in a bar, it can be in a bathroom, it doesn't matter. but somewhere in that scene, she
It's
needs
just
to
the
find out
beats.
this
Yeah.
lady is, yeah. So it's like, so I can still be creative. I can do whatever I feel in the moment, but as long as that one thing to progress the story happens, I've got it. And that works for me.
All right. No, that works for a lot of people. I think, I don't know, every now and then I kind of get a little itch to try that again and, give it a shot and see if maybe I should be a plotter, and I'll try it again.
I have friends
talk
who
to
think
someone like
love to
you.
argue about this, so don't feel bad. I love arguing.
No, it's okay. No, it's fine. It's fine. I've interviewed so many people. I interviewed Libby Hawker, who wrote "Take Off Your Pants," who is all about everyone
Great
thinks they're a pantser until they do plotting right for the first time, right? And all of a sudden you're a plotter.
Yeah.
I tried
He's
it.
gonna pull you into plotting. Yeah.
Exactly. Whatever. I can be persuaded. I'm not set in stone. So, all right. Well, hey, where can people find out more about you? I mean, I'm sad to say we're at our time already. Where can people find you online?
Yeah. Well, you can find me. I have a website, heatherhildenbrand.com. So you can look up my books and read about me, and subscribe to my newsletter list. My newsletter is where I share the most, probably real stuff. I don't blog as much anymore, but I'll share a lot in my newsletter about what's really going on. I also have a new, I have a column in my newsletter now called "Shit My Husband Says." I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm allowed to curse, but I just did. I didn't even ask.
It's pre-recorded. I'll just edit it out.
All right.
I'll put the word puppies over that. Puppies, my husband, but I'll do it in my voice. I'll say puppies.
Even better. Definitely do that.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that was my husband likes to tell dad jokes, and I think I'm making him famous because my readers reply more about that column and his dad jokes that I put in my newsletter than they do about my books anymore.
Okay, you've sold me. I'm getting on your list for two reasons. One is an official voice of indie publishing reason, and the other is I just want to know your husband better. Because now I want to see how you do it. I think the art of the newsletter is the next big wave. Everyone knows they're supposed to have a mailing list.
Yeah.
Right. Everyone knows that's the key to marketing as an author. I don't think most of us know the right way to handle it. And I've got my way, which I think is a little stilted and wrong. And it's not I don't think it's as personable as and it's definitely not as regimented.
A whole other conversation. I love talking about this stuff. I taught a whole course on this, but you're right.
Did you?
The main thing is you just have to be engaging. So your social proof on whether your newsletter is good is how many people reply to it, how many people talk about it to you.
Oh, well, good. I get a lot of replies.
Yeah. So there you go. I mean, so you're making people read it and think and reach back out to you so they feel connected.
Most of them are yelling at me, but.
Well, see, and most of mine are raving about my husband. So maybe that's not the only.
Maybe we're doing this all wrong. We're doing this all wrong.
Back to the drawing board.
All right.
But yeah, they can find me there, and I'm on Facebook when I'm not supposed to be, which is all the time. So
I know. I've really curtailed Facebook.
Yeah. I deleted it from my phone, and so I'm much better, but it's still.
It's part of my gig with Draft to Digital, so I can't just duck out altogether, but I have definitely dialed back, so for good or ill. All right. Well, everybody listening, you can of course find those links. Everything Heather related really will be in the show notes of this episode. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm going to drop it down there as well. So have fun with that. Make sure you do get on that newsletter. I'm definitely going to hop in there here in a few seconds and get on there and you better look for my name, and I better get a personalized thing. I'm just kidding.
I'll put my husband on that.
I'll put some pressure on you. Yeah, your husband and I, we're going to start hanging out.
Yeah.
Because we had our brief moment in the elevator at the hotel.
A lovely intro to a story.
It was. That's it. You want to talk shifter romance? It starts right there. Floor 3, please.
Sounds beautiful.
All right. Okay, everybody. You're probably hearing the groovy bridge music right now. You may dance in place at will. Stick around for some news and updates. All things Wordslinger podcast related after this. And thank you once again for tuning in. Heather, thank you so much for being a part of the show.
Thanks for having me.
See you on the other side, folks. Hey, thanks for sticking around. I hope you enjoyed that interview with Heather Hildenbrand. She's a great author, a great person, someone I really have come to respect and admire. So I hope you got a lot out of that. I know I did. Now, we're going to jump right into the industry news. I got some really cool stories here for you today. First up, Amazon launches Prime Book Box. Coming up later in 2018, Amazon will launch Prime Book Box, a monthly subscription-based service aimed at kids. Now, the subscription will run around $23 a month, and it's going to be aimed mostly at kids between the ages of, well, first, there's going to be two segments. There's going to be kids between 0 and 2 years old and 3 to 12 years old. Now, depending on that age range, the kids will either get 4 what they call board books. Now, you can think of those like the little golden books that you probably grew up with. Or they may get 2 hardcover books, 2 hardcover picture books, or 2 hardcover novels. Now, of course, that's aimed at the older group. Now, this is significant because this is the first time Amazon's actually offered physical books as a part of a subscription service. And now, I don't know what this could mean going forward in the future, but if Amazon is using this as some sort of test market, it could mean a pretty big deal for authors, and indie authors in particular, where we might be able to bundle our books into subscription services later down the road. Now, if you happen to be a children's author, you can probably get in on this. Of course, the books are being curated by some of Amazon's book editors. No word on how to get a book included in that, but you could always email and ask around. You'll find a link to this story in the show notes of this episode. Check it out at bit.ly/148-Amazon. The launch of publishing technology partners. Now, this is an interesting story, especially if you are someone developing a business or service in the publishing space. For those looking to launch and build a business in the publishing space, Publishing Technology Partners is a consulting partnership that brings a lot of industry expertise to the table. And the 5 founding partners, they have an impressive array of knowledge and experience, about 25 years worth of knowledge and experience combined, doing everything from launching to helping out with IT services, that sort of thing. What they're doing is creating a consultancy so that they can help folks like you and me who might be starting our own publishing industry-related businesses. They'll provide consulting, they'll provide strategies for marketing, for growth and development, business strategies, business planning, you name it. You're going to get a lot out of this group. Now, you're going to want to check this out. If you're in this space, if you're just an author and you don't want to build something for other authors, no problem. You can ignore this story. But if you are, like a lot of authors I know, kind of interested in helping to build and grow the community, this is kind of exciting because it's a group built specifically around that idea. So check that story out in the show notes below. That would be bit.ly/148-partners. Findaway Voices introduces promotional pricing. Now, you've heard me talk about Findaway Voices before. Draft to Digital actually helped in the launch of Findaway Voices last year, and it's been huge. Findaway is aimed at audiobook distribution, and they get your audiobook into every major market there ever was. So, and that includes, by the way, Audible and Apple's iTunes store. So what they're doing now is rolling out their promotional pricing. It's not for every channel that they represent, but it's for some key players. They're including in this promotional pricing for Google Play, Nook Audiobooks, eStories, Libro FM, and InstaRead. Now, no word on whether they're going to carry this over to other vendors later. They're probably working on that. And I think this is a very cool deal. We haven't had the ability to affect promotional pricing in the past. Of course, you did not hear me say Audible in that list of vendors, but that doesn't mean you can't use them for this, or use at least use Findaway Voices to affect your Audible pricing. Since they do distribute there, if you lower your price elsewhere, Audible may actually price match if you reach out to them. So that's me saying that. That's not Findaway saying that. So make sure you check in, do some research, do a little emailing. But I'm pretty sure there's only this much margin for error in that one. So go check that out. Now, if you want to save on the $49 admin fee that Findaway Voices charges, you can do that if you go through my boys at Draft to Digital. Go to drafttodigital.com and check that out. sign up for an account. In fact, if you go to draft2digital.com/wordslinger, you'll help me out a little. But if you go into Find Away Voices through Draft2Digital, your Draft2Digital account, you'll actually save that $49 admin fee per book. So that's reason enough to go in through there. We don't take any money out of your pocket when you do that. It's all yours anyway. We just want to help save you a little cash on the front end. So now you can find this story, of course, at bit.ly/148-findaway, and it's also linked in the show notes below. And that's it for this week's Wordslinger podcast. I really appreciate you tuning in. Hope you're getting a lot out of this. I'm trying to expand the range of what I do for the show, so let me know how I'm doing. You can comment below. I do appreciate that. If you'd like to help support the show, you can subscribe. That's a great way to support the show. Subscribe, hit the little notification icon, and because YouTube is weird, you may want to go ahead and click that notification bell and say you want to be updated for every video rather than occasionally notified. I don't even understand why that exists, but you might, and you do what you do. I don't mind, and I'm happy to be here to help you in any way that I can. So thank you for your comments. You can also visit wordslingerpodcast.com, where you can reach out to me with an email, or you can listen to back episodes, watch back episodes for those that are on YouTube. Everything is right there, and you can reach out and contact me anytime. I do appreciate all that, and of course, if you want to support me, you can do that by going to draft2digital.com/wordslinger. Sign up for an account through that URL, and I get a little kickback. It takes nothing out of your pocket, but I get a kickback for a whole year. So thank you for that kind of support. And you can also go to Wordslinger Press, wordslingerpodcast.com. If you click on the little press icon, it's over in the right-hand column of the website. That'll take you to Wordslinger Press. There's only a couple of books on there now, but you can get those 2 books cheaper on that website than you can anywhere else online. So that's not a bad deal. I'm going to be adding to that library as we go. So helpful tools there. I hope you enjoy the show. I hope you enjoy what you're getting out of the Wordslinger podcast. And I hope you enjoyed today's interview with Heather. So take care of yourselves out there. I'll see you all next time.